Hey, so I got another game in, and I asked my mate what he wanted to play against, and well, this opponent is a bit of a more inexperienced opponent, so he decided to keep it small. And he actually was interested in me playing Kingdom of Aquitaine. And yeah, it's an army that I don't play that often, but I'm still curious towards to learn how to play basically. So I took one of the lists that were submitted for the Bloodstorm Slaughterfest that I also covered in some earlier videos. It's a list that someone took that participated in the event, and I believe he even did quite well with it. So we have a Paladin on a Pegasus, that's the General with Divine Judgment on the lands. Probably the Questing Oath to just get some extra distance against fear causes that he has multiple wounds against with his lands. The only sad thing about the build is that you can't use the Bastard Sword in later turns of combat because your lance is enchanted, so you have to use it. So I think you can't use it in later turns. But then again, there's also a Paladin on a Pegasus who's the BSB. I think it's just a solid pick at this point level without any upgrades. Then we have 2x5 Knights Aspirant, which basically serve as his chaff, and 7 Knights of the Quest that are the real beef in the list, 3 Knights of the Grail, and then a Scorpion to round the list out. The Infernal Dwarf list was the following one. So we have a Prophet on a Temple Lamassu, who was the General and is a Wizard Adept on Alchemy. He ended up with having a 4-up Aegis save. Then we have a Vizier, who is the BSB with a Flintlock Axe. A Hobgoblin Chieftain on a Wolf. Then we have 15 Citadel Guard with Flintlock Axes. 30 Hobgoblins with bows, 24 Hobgoblins with bows, 5 Hobgoblin Wolf Riders, and 2 Bolt Throwers. So it's just a big gun line really on 2,000 points. And then the Citadel Guard, they can also dish out quite a lot of damage in combat. Paired with a very mobile caster with Alchemy, it's a tough matchup really for the Kingdom of Aquitaine. But we will see what will happen in the game. We are playing in the same way as we would have at the Bloodstorm Slaughterfest event. So we both also had hidden objectives. My hidden objective was that I had to lose my Questing Knight unit to award me double victory points off the unit at the end of the game. My opponent chose my Grail Knights as a kill target, so he had to get rid of those. The advantage of the Kingdom of Aquitaine army is that I have very high mobility in the list, so even the Knights Aspirant, I can just put him anywhere, especially against this opponent because he is very slow, and I can just race across the field and turn 2 hopefully get a charge in. But as we're playing on the small board, getting on the flanks of my opponent is going to be very tough, I would say, because well, in the middle of the board you're going to see a lot of action, but if you focus your entire army on the flanks, then your opponent can very easily turn around his entire army, because the components of the army make the army so small that they're very maneuverable. So I don't think I could. I was considering just going over a flank, but yeah, in these small games, the middle of the field is it's just a very safe, and anyone can reach the middle of the field. So that's also why I'm going to deploy my Scorpion in the middle of the board. My opponent only has the alchemy spells, and he already put his hobgoblins basically out of range of my Scorpion, because I'm going to also advance with the rest of my army, so my Scorpion can just very safely sit there and cover the entire field. Because if my opponent decides to shoot at the Scorpion with his bolt throwers, I'm perfectly fine with that, as I have 6 wounds anyway, and I'm just going to function as I am, even if I were to lose 4 or 5 wounds. So this is what the eventual deployment looks like. At the end, my opponent deployed his Prophet on Lamassu in the far right corner to get some cover from the Scorpion if I were to have the first turn. As a counter deployment, I could put my characters all the way on the left flank so that he could not target my characters with his magic in the first round of the game. And then we go to the roll-off, and he actually wins the roll-off, so he gets to start. So his hobgoblins, they are not really within range of most of my army. He's going to have to move up his army a little bit if he wants to shoot right now. But the scorpions, his bolt throwers can obviously already shoot. He's going to move up the Prophet on Temple Lamassu and just try to take the hit from the scorpion back. Maybe he was already hoping that he would be able to remove the scorpion from the field with some concentrated fire, but it would be unrealistic to do so in turn 1. So at this time I'm already thinking about my turn and how it's going to look like. And yeah, I don't understand Kingdom of Aquitaine, to be honest. Maybe it's also the point values, because yeah, I'm just looking at these hobgoblin blocks and I don't have an answer to them. And also the Citadel Guard, their flintlock axes, they serve as halberds, so they have strength 5 in combat. They're going to outgrind me, even if I manage to get my entire army in this single year. Well, probably if I get my entire army in, then I will be able to go through. But it's looking like a very, very tough matchup. Any unit, any decent sized unit that I am able to charge in is going to be steadfast and at a high leadership. And yeah, then there's these scorpions. Yeah, these are easy points if I get the charge on them. But yeah, that's if that is going to be the focus of this game for me, to just remove the scorpions, that I'm not going to be able to win the game also. And my opponent has a lot of shooting, so it's gonna hurt sometime. So my opponent, he moved up his wizard to the right, and he tried to do some magic, but he failed at that. And in the end, the only damage he did was to put a wound on the scorpion. So I was very grateful about that, because I had expected to lose at least like 3 or 4 knights. So here it's my turn. I'm moving up, and yeah, this Temple Lamassu, I cannot ignore it in combat. So I have to come up with a little bit of a plan. So I don't like trying to chase this character away with my entire army and then failing at it, because it flies away and then you're misaligned for everything you want to do. So I decide to practically ignore it with 90% of my army, and then have this 1 unit of Knights Aspirant that he can charge in the flank if he wants to. And then set up a counter charge with a unit of Grail Knights in case he is going in. So this does take the speed out of my list a little bit, and maybe I should just have moved up as aggressively as I could. And yeah, just ignore the Temple Lamassu, because if he's going to charge in, he's going to be not casting any magic. So yeah, probably I should have just ignored it and just gone full straight on ahead and really make sure that I was able to get this turn 2 charge off. Because now I positioned myself in a way where I'm not up the field as much as I should have been, probably. And then we go to my opponent's turn. There's no charges. His I managed to hit actually with my scorpion on his character and then wound him, and then he made his ward save. So I was sad about that, because I would have liked to for his character to just be removed from the field turn 1, obviously. Yeah, his turn, he moves up with the hobgoblins to threaten my scorpion, which I can imagine. And then he decides to risk it again with his Temple Lamassu. And well, he could have hid behind the house and still have some line of sight on the questing knights, I think. So I think I would have preferred this play, because he has the long game anyway. And otherwise, it's just a lot of shooting happening and magic. So he has 2 spells. He has Quicksilver Lash and Molten Copper, and I consistently allow Molten Copper to go through and dispel the Quicksilver Lash, because Quicksilver Lash doesn't have any strength and it has AP 10, whilst Molten Copper has AP 4 only. So against Molten Copper I still have a 6+ armor save and a 5+ ward save, because of the high strength. And then against Quicksilver Lash I only have my 6+ ward save. So I think it's a better thing to let the Molten Copper go through. Then in a lucky shot, his Hobgoblin archers, they inflict 2 wounds on my general, and then I actually don't manage to save any of these wounds. And his Citadel Guard, I totally forgot about the flintlock axes. I just see warriors and I'm like, okay, it's just warriors and they can't shoot. So they just nick off 3 of the aspirant knights, and then my knights, they respond by fleeing off the table. Oh well, fleeing away. So by this time I declared the charges that I wanted to declare. So first I have the Knights Aspirant that declared the charge on the Hobgoblins to draw out stand and shoot. My opponent didn't stand and shoot because he was expecting the General to go in, and then my General actually declared the charge against the Scorpion. And then my BSB could charge in on the Hobgoblins, and he was benefiting from hard cover. So my BSB and my Knights Aspirant, they actually make it in on the Hobgoblins, but my General, he fails to get the charge roll needed for the Scorpion. My Knights of the Quest, they also charge because I think it's the only option to stay alive, basically. But they also fail their charge move. So this is where I should have moved more aggressively in the previous turn. But then again, yeah, my opponent still would have shot away one of my units, causing a panic check. So maybe it would have been the Knights of the Quest that would have fled away in that case. I get another shot on his Prophet on Lamassu, and I believe nothing happens. So I believe I miss actually this turn. In the next combat, I come against parry. So all of the attacks of my knights and the Pegasus, they end up doing, I guess, about 5 wounds, 4 wounds, 5 wounds. So the knights are at force to it with the 10 attacks, and yeah, it could be that they fluff a little. And the Pegasus also does some wounds. But in the end, it's just enough to make him test on his steadfast. And I thought he was going to have leadership 5 or leadership 6 with the Hobgoblins. But my opponent convinced me that they could actually test on the leadership or get a leadership bonus from the BSB that was near. I don't know if this is a special rule, but well, he tested on leadership 8 and he managed to stick. And then we go to his turn. He charges with the warriors, with the Dwarven Citadel Guard, and with the Hobgoblins at my Knights of the Quest. He doesn't make the charge, and the Hobgoblins, they charge against the Scorpion, but they also don't make the charge whilst they needed like a 6 or so. So I was quite lucky there. But at this point, I'm looking at the table and I'm realizing that basically this is already a game that's over. Because, well, I might still get lucky with the Scorpion and shoot his character down, but my BSB and the Knights, they're stuck in a fight with Hobgoblins, which, well, if they tested leadership 8, then I'm never gonna chase them away with a reroll from the BSB. Then there's the questing Knights that have to take on their own a block of Citadel Guard with flintlock axes, so after stand and shoot it's gonna be tough. And this round also through alchemy, my general is taken off the field. I just have 2 Grail Knights left also. Yeah, so I don't understand Grail Knights. I really don't, because they're so pricey. If you compare them to Vampire Count, Vampire Knights, they have the same frontage, but they have 2 wounds each, and you can raise them back, and they're like 300 points or so, and 240 points even, and the Grail Knights are 220 points. So I had to double check a couple of times to see if Grail Knights don't actually have just a 2nd wound or something, because that would make sense to me. But yeah, I don't know how Knights of Aquitaine, Kingdom of Aquitaine players pull it off with these blocks of Grail Knights that seem so vulnerable to everything that's coming their way. Of course, you can invest some more points to give them a 4+ ward save against ranged instead of a 5+. But it's becoming very pricey very quickly, and I don't see the direct benefit of it. I think Kingdom of Aquitaine is currently a difficult army to play, or at least it's very matchup dependent, because you rely on your charge ranges, you rely on your armor, and you rely on the opponent not having a lot of steadfast, or not being able to remove your ranks so that you can actually negate his steadfast. So that's a lot of conditions that you apply in a game, and obviously there's going to be games where it's golden and you just fly through and everything's great, but every army has these matchups. But I believe I feel like there's a lot of matchups for Kingdom of Aquitaine that are more tough than easy ones. So in my turn, I actually, with my unit of 5 Knights of the Quest left, I'm definitely not confident enough to go into the unit of Citadel Guard, so I actually opt to go into the Hobgoblin brick of 30. I know they're steadfast, but I just hope for a lucky break somewhere, sometime. And the Knights of the Grail, they actually go towards the Scorpion to try and charge it next turn. Because, yeah, otherwise I don't see how they can contribute in the battle. Because, yeah, if I charge into Citadel Guard, they're gonna die. If I also join into well, I should be able to get rid of the Hobgoblins over the upcoming 2 turns or so. But these Hobgoblins, they just keep me stuck. So the Scorpion shoots again at this Wizard Adept, but it again hits, and it again manages to wound, but again my opponent makes his ward save. So then in combat we still stick against the Hobgoblins, and my opponent actually manages to kill off one of my Knights of the Quest, making his Temple Lamassu Prophet unable to see the unit of questing knights anymore. So that was actually a good situation for me, I would like to say, but yeah, well, still, I lost the questing knights. I'm not sure about it. And yeah, my opponent actually, at this point, he decides to hide his prophet behind the building. So I guess he he was confident that he had gotten all of his luck on his dice for the ward save that he was going to have this battle, and then didn't want to take the risk anymore, because the Hobgoblin Wolf Riders, they again failed to charge the Scorpion. Otherwise, we're still stuck in combat against the Hobgoblins. The Scorpion is going to shoot against the Knights of the Grail again, together with the Citadel Guard. So this is the situation what I was talking about before, where at this point level you can really focus on a flank with a unit and turn around and do something else on the other flank. Because your mobility of your units respective to the table sizes is way bigger. So the Citadel Guard, they were able to respond to the Knights of the Quest before, to the Knights Aspirant before, and now they just swift reform to kill off the Knight of the Grail. And yeah, we're still in the same combat, stuck in the same combat with the Hobgoblins, grinding him down. He's still steadfast because he also managed to kill a couple of knights of me. So yeah, it's just a grind now. We realized that previous turn he could also still combat reform with the Hobgoblins on the right, so I allowed him to still make this combat reform to go in deep instead of wide. And yeah, now he has ranks, and yeah, he's going to win the grind there, probably. He's going to win the other grind, probably. The only thing I could imagine that I did wrong is to not move up sufficient in my first turn, so that I would definitely have to charge on the second turn. But yeah, seeing this is it's tough. It's really tough. So I wonder actually wonder where the discipline 8 of the Hobgoblins comes from. I could imagine that it's some kind of Infernal Dwarf rule, where the Infernal Dwarfs can pass their leadership to nearby units in a similar way that Bretonnian Knights or Kingdom of Aquitaine Knights with the Oath of Fealty can pass it on to the peasants. So we already had my turn now, so just some combat happening, and then his turn again. He charges in the Hobgoblins, finally into the Scorpion. And everything is locked in combat now. He doesn't attempt to do any magic with this mage this turn because everything is in combat anyway. He clears up the Scorpion with his Wolf Riders, and we go to the other combat. Yeah, it's not looking good, is it? Yeah, so I'm stuck in combats in ways that I wouldn't want to. And yeah, basically this is already the end of the game. So the Hobgoblins on the right, they managed to break the Knights of the Quest through static combat res. So yeah, he had this counter charge into the side of my knights with this Citadel Guard. And yeah, this was actually quite funny because my champion of my Knights Aspirant, he called out for a very brave challenge, and then while the character of my opponent went to town, but then missed all of his attacks, so and didn't wound, and I saved, and so my champion survived, and then my champion struck back, and he actually inflicted 2 wounds, of which one of them was only saved. So my opponent got a wound on his BSB. Yay, hooray for me. So yeah, then I obviously had to take break tests at a very high negative modifier. So while at Bloodstorm you have a double 1 steadfast snake eyes break test rule, where you always pass it if you roll double 1. So I managed to do so with my knights, which I was very happy with. And then the BSB, they fled out and he was able to rally. So my turn consists out of rolling some more dice to do the combat with the knights. My opponent manages to smack down 2 knights this round, and the BSB still doesn't manage to do anything. But my champion also does manage to do anything, and he's going to flee the battle. He's going to be caught up by the Hobgoblins, fleeing only about 6 inches, and the Hobgoblins also do about so. And my opponent, he has an interesting situation. If I were him this round, I would have probably charged first with the Hobgoblins onto the BSB, and then with the Citadel Guard on the BSB. Because if I were to flee from the Hobgoblins, I would probably still be in line of sight of the Citadel Guard, and then they could still charge me. And then if you do it the other way around, then if you fast charge with the Citadel Guard, I can just flee and then go out of line of sight of the Hobgoblins. So then I get away. Instead, my opponent opted to cast and shoot me down. The magic phase didn't go terribly well for him, so he managed to get 1 spell through, which I dispelled. So he didn't get it through actually. And for the other spell, he managed to get a very low roll, and then all of his shooting was ineffective, to be honest. So my BSB was able to charge the flank of his Hobgoblin unit, and now they were no longer steadfast because I killed them all, except for like 2 or 3 or so, but they just ran for the hill. So my very brave BSB was going to carry the day for the Kingdom of Aquitaine. So yeah, it's getting closer to a win for me. Yeah, so talking about points, I got the points of the Hobgoblin unit, yay! I also got points for losing my Knights of the Quest. The unit was about 400 something points, so I got double that. It's about 900 points. So in the end I have about 1200 points. My opponent has my entire army except for the BSB, so it's 1650 points. He gets 200 for the general, and he gets double of the Knights of the Grail. So he has about 2,300 points, which comes to a difference of 1,100 points, which is, I think, something along the lines of a 14-6 to him. So well played. I don't know if this was a terrible matchup for the Kingdom of Aquitaine. If you're a better judge of this, then please let me know. I know for sure that I struggled with this matchup a lot already. Thinking in turn 2, like, yeah, okay, this is not going to be great. This is going disastrously bad. But it were the unlucky dice rolls of my opponent that still made for it to be a longer game. Yeah, I think I should have moved up more aggressively in turn 1. But yeah, I was very lucky still with the ranged output of my opponent. And the damage that he dealt. So maybe at 4,500 points you have more dedicated answers that can counter this type of list for the Kingdom of Aquitaine. But I'm not convinced by the army. So I'd rather just play other armies, I guess. So I'll just continue playing other armies in the future. Well, thank you all for watching, and I hope you had an enjoyable time. See you next time.